Welcome to In Depth. You serve your country, you watch our backs. If you are in the theater of war, you see horrific sights, and they can stay with you long after you come back home. Tonight, we're saying thank you for your service and talking about a subject many are uncomfortable to discuss: suicide. It has become a growing problem for many of our veterans. And joining me tonight are Jimmy Callahan, a U.S. Marine, and Dan Oates, a 27-year Army veteran, both organizing several events dedicated to our military heroes and major events coming up. It's called Point Man. And the mission of Point Man, first I want to give this to you, Dan. It's just not one particular area. You're branching out and helping veterans right here in the tri-state.
Exactly. We primarily are to help the veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress, or TBI. But we've expanded to helping homeless vets through the Grisham House. We've helped vets through the Honor Flight. We help retired veterans, aged veterans through SWRCA, and a number of different organizations. If there's a veteran in need, we're trying to help find a way to help them.
And speaking of veterans in need, they are out there. Jimmy, you're very, very instrumental in this Reboot Combat Recovery. It's a 12-week program, and the success rate, at least here locally, is phenomenal. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the statistics is 22 veterans are dying every day due to suicide from PTSD. Reboot was created in an effort to end that. It's a 12-week-long trauma healing course that focuses on the spiritual and moral wounds of war.
And this brings in the families of these veterans, too.
Yeah, that's what makes it unique, because you get to, the spouse and the fiancés get to participate. They get to learn what the triggers are, what are healthy ways to cope. It brings the family together in ways that they can team up and fight this together. And
the sights of war, of course, can be very, very disturbing. And Dan, I know that you and Jimmy both have, you've witnessed things while you have been in various theaters overseas. How has that affected you, Dan? And this dates back to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 50 years ago in October. You don't forget what your experiences are. You will always remember those experiences. I was in the last reboot class that Jimmy held, and I don't feel like I have post-traumatic stress or any issues, but I had issues that helped come to the forefront that I'd pushed way back in my psychic for a very long time.
They call PTSD invisible wounds, and very, very hard to see unless you're inside that soldier's mind and heart. And Jimmy, how did that turn your life around in some ways?
Well, I mean, before the program, I think there was a lot of loss, hopelessness, despair, anger. You know, and what it does is if you don't have an outlet, it can destroy your family. And, you know, I really want to make the point that more veterans have died by suicide related to PTSD than the number of deaths from the conflicts of Iraq and Afghanistan.
And we talked a little bit about this in the newsroom. As a veteran, you're tough. You face potential death every day in a combat situation. But when you're back home, what is the trigger that would make a Marine say, I'm done?
Well, I mean, I don't mean to correct you, but I was a Navy corpsman with the Marines, so they have I honored those guys. I supported those guys in combat. So I just want to make that distinction, because I didn't get to wear their uniform. They've got the best uniform in the military. But I know it's debatable.
You witnessed
I take issue with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you're pretty important. So
yeah, you know, I mean, what you see in combat is chaos, it's ugliness, it's things that you can't come home and just talk about it. And part of being a military member and always ready for combat is being ready. And if you show a sign of weakness, then that's putting you at risk for your position.
Coming up, the first Point Man Charity Patriot Ride, and that's on June 8th, and this is something that you've wanted to happen. What's going to happen on that?
This is going to be a big day. Well, first and foremost, it's to honor our 75th anniversary of D-Day. So it's to honor all veterans, but specifically the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We, as veterans, we keep those anniversaries very close. The Patriot Ride will start out at Bud's and Harley-Davidson in Evansville and go throughout 75 miles of southern Indiana. For the riders and passengers, there's a free lunch. We're going to have potluck and, half pot and door prizes and things of that nature. But the Army National Guard's coming from Vincennes to present their 155 mobile howitzers. We've got the VET mobile crisis vehicle going to be there. It should be a really good day. We got T-shirts, and of course you get to spend the day showing your patriotism, riding, and with a bunch of veterans, right?
In the grand scheme of things, Dan, as far as a timeline of the 20th century leading into the 21st century, you've been kind of in the middle of Vietnam. We're talking about World War II, Korea, Vietnam, conflicts in the Middle East. The Evening with the Old Guard that's coming up on June 17th. Tell me about that.
That's a special evening that we're doing in conjunction with Boone Funeral Home. There'll be a showing of a film. It'll be at Crossroads at 6:30 in our chapel. And then we have an old guard who will be there to tell about his experience. And what most people don't know is that when they become a member of the old guard, it's a lifelong membership of agreements of things that they'll do. They can't have any alcohol. Right. They can't do a number of things. So that's a big commitment, and this guy will talk about that.
Well, Reboot Combat Recovery, I think we've got the website up there, if we can pull that up on the screen. This basically, if you're interested in being a part of this, if you know a loved one or a friend who may need some help, head to that website, and that will get you in touch with people who can help you. And we could talk all night. I wish we could, but I want to thank you.
It's important to note that it's free.
Right.
We provide the meal and child care.
All righty.
Thanks to Point Man.
Well, continued success with this program. You've made a difference in a lot of lives right here in the tri-state, and it is an uphill battle as far as the suicide rate, but you've certainly made some incredible strides. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.